What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another movie review. I'm Chase Lee, and the movie I want to take a look at right now is The Nightingale. Now, this one comes from IFC. It is written and directed by Jennifer Kent, and it stars, I'm going to have to pull out IMDb for this one because I do not want to mess this up. Aisling Francios. See? That was brutal. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, she stars as a woman named Clare in 1825, and she is an Irish convict who was saved by this British officer to kind of do work for him and pretty much keep her as a slave. But, this is what she could do for her and her husband and her baby. And, all these officers that she works around kind of abuse their power and really kind of make her feel like garbage. And I will just say that something happens to her family that prompts her to chase after three of these British officers who kind of committed this harm to her family, and she sets out for revenge. And she also comes across a Aboriginal tracker named Billy who kind of helps her along the way. And he is a black gentleman, which is very important in this story, in this context, because of the time period and how people of color were treated and just treated very poorly. And so she had to be very careful taking him with him. And he knew the risk going into it and stuff, but he wanted to help. And that's kind of our journey. It's just them two finding out where these officers are at so she can get revenge on what happened to her and her family. So going into this, I was super excited. Jennifer Kent made the Babadook about 5 years ago in 2014, and that movie blew me away. Using grief and sadness and any type of human emotion you can think of and apply it to a horror film and creep you out, but also take away the empathy that you feel as a human when you go through these situations. It was such a perfect blend for that movie, and it was directed with such vigor and intensity and creativity. I absolutely love that movie. So anything that she wants to tackle, I'm on board. When I heard about this film and I knew she was doing it, sign me up. I'm good to go. And so when I saw the trailer for it, I was like, this is going to be an experience. On a physical level, in the movie, and mentally as me as an audience member, knowing the kind of plot going into it. So after watching the movie, it is a visceral experience. On a artistic level, on a story level, mentally, it is something to behold. I don't know if it's going to go in my top 10. It is a brutal watch. But I will say, for what she was trying to accomplish, it was effective and really kind of stuns you when the credits roll and you're like, wow. I enjoyed that ride, even though it was hard to look at sometimes. It was the harsh reality of 1825, and Jennifer Kent went full on in there. She did not hold anything back, and she just went for the most kind of in-your-face type of violence and depravity of just humans, and it's really sickening to watch sometimes. So I love the film, but there's a huge asterisk on it that just says, even though I love it, I don't know if I want to watch it again. It is one of the more brutal watches I've sat through all year long, but that's what she was going for, and that's why it was effective. So to go off of Jennifer Kent real quick, she astonishes me as a director. The Babadook was a fantasy kind of horror drama. This is a period drama that mixed in with the revenge thriller. It's just, she kind of takes all these different genres and kind of puts them together into an interesting experience. And this one, if you like the Babadook, just know going into this one is brutal on every single level. Imagine watching like I Spit on Your Grave or like The Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes, like those type of brutal horror films, and just kind of amp it up and make it a great film artistically. Yes, what she shows is absolutely sickening, and it really kind of affects you on an emotional level and on a mental level. And she does not shy away from this grossness that these officers kind of do to her and her family. And her not shying away from it really makes the journey more satisfying, and seeing her getting up after getting beaten down, having this fury and this rage to go after these men who wronged her and her family, and seeing that kind of anger in her made you feel angry. You were along with her every step of the way, even though that she was kind of flawed herself, because when she comes across her tracker, he is black. And so she still is a little prejudiced, because most people were back in those times. And so even with that, even with her being flawed in that regard, I still wanted her to work with him, get to where she needed to go, and really kind of humiliate these officers that did this to her. And so the absolute just astonishment in the directing, balancing between this really kind of grotesque imagery, this revenge thriller, this beautiful friendship that her and Billy formed towards the end of the movie, the way it is shot, the way it is constructed, the sharpness of the editing. It's just, it moves with such energy and velocity, but also takes its time to let you soak in its beautiful imagery and production design and costumes. It's a film of 1825 made in 2019, and it's such a great thing to witness, because you feel like you're watching this old-timey movie that would have come out like in the early 1900s or late 1800s when film first started, but it was made with a modern eye. And it's stuff that can be applied to today with how men abuse their power, or how anyone abuses their power, how people discriminate. Like that's what's so great about this, is that this is a story that, while it is fictional, it's loosely based on real life stories like this that would come out during those days, almost 200 years ago, but it's still stuff that could be applied to now. So making a film that feels fictional, feels like a period drama grindhouse movie, but still has the themes that can be carried on into modern times. And once again, she does it with balance. And also, the last thing for Jennifer Kent and her directing is that she is able to apply some horror elements too. When they're in the woods tracking down these officers, the main character starts to lose her sanity a little bit. The isolation starts to get to her and really mess with her head, and it really provides for some really great kind of nightmarish sequences where I go, okay, that's her Babadook kind of flourishes coming out a little bit. I love it. So it, once again, a good blend, because if anyone else were to tackle this movie and have this very harsh subject matter, and it was able to kind of dive into horror a little bit and even have like some comedic beats to it, it wouldn't have worked. But once again, it's all about balance, and you want to see these characters succeed. You want them to just be at peace with themselves at the very end, and it's satisfying. It's such a satisfying journey, even though it's really hard to watch sometimes with the graphic nature of the film and the discrimination that is all throughout this thing. It's absolutely disgusting behavior. But these two characters are like the two bright spots of humanity, and they highlight that. They're very, they're in the minority of at least decent people that live throughout this time, and you just want to see them overcome these terrible people and become these heroes in their own story. And so, yeah, Jennifer Kent's directing, phenomenal. As far as the actual acting goes, it's kind of incredible how the main character, Claire, how she starts the film, how she ends the film, what's her journey in between, because in the beginning she is a convict, but she's also kind of in her own form of slavery a little bit. And so, she's very compliant. She, yes sir, kind of puts her head down. She doesn't have that fight in her to speak up if things are going wrong or whatever. And, that's how it was. Women were told to shut their mouths. And so she complied, she did all that. And then, when this event happens to her, she turns into a very, very angry filled woman, rightfully so, wanting to go after these people. And it's such a switch in her character and her performance that was really kind of astonishing, because anyone that tries to overact being angry or overact being, kind of subdued or quiet, like, it just, you gotta make it believable with the switch. And I think that she does that pretty well. Like, you're on her side every step of the way. And, when she interacts with her tracker, she starts to become more friendly, and we start to see her open up, and she becomes, more empathetic and stuff. It's all within the performance of going from this emotion to this emotion to this emotion to the very end. And you're like, wow, what a journey, not only for her character, but for that performance in particular. I'm gonna get to the one actor in just a second, but the tracker Billy, I have to read this off my phone because there's no way I was gonna remember it because I'm terrible at pronunciations. I apologize. Bekali Gunumbar. I hope that's pronounces. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But he is the gentleman that plays Billy, the tracker. I love his personality. He's such a welcome, kind of warm welcome to this story. He's a guy that knows that he is black in this time period. He knows that he might get killed if he goes off into the wrong direction, but he has to survive, and so he takes this job. He knows the risk involved, and he has a very, very kind of, like I said, warm personality about him. You just want to hang out with this guy. He's a really great individual, and he kind of explains to Claire at one point in the movie that he and his people have been berated by white people, and he has lost a lot of people in his life. He's seen a lot of horror in his life, and she kind of opens up about her story, so they're able to connect on that level. And it's such a deep relationship that they have that I found really convincing and found really welcoming in this really hard to watch tale about the grossness of power and how it's abused, and it's a tough watch. The person that's committing all these atrocities, Sam Claflin, plays the main British officer that kind of encourages other people in his battalion to commit all these crimes, and he's definitely like a weenie because he asks other people to do his own bidding. He doesn't really do anything himself. And so he commits all these things. He is terrifying. He is disgusting. He is a despicable human being. I was convinced that I was not watching Sam Claflin. I was watching this British officer abuse his power. And I'm not going to say how it ends, but when you get to the ending and you see how belittled he gets, it is so satisfying because you're like, wow, like you are a garbage human being. You got what you got. And so he's mind-blowingly good in this movie. I cannot believe that he went to those dark places. That is not easy to do as an actor, but he went there 100%, and just having it under the direction and the kind of guidance from Jennifer Kent, I'm sure it was not an easy thing to do, especially if you're a woman directing this movie. So I don't know how Sam Claflin did it. Good job to him going to those dark places. I'm sure it was not easy, but he did a phenomenal job. Like every single person in this movie committed 100%. And I just love following all these characters, whether they were good or bad, and wanting to see the good guys take over, the bad guys. It was just a really satisfying revenge thriller to watch. And on top of all that, like I said, the production design, the costuming is really great. It really kind of highlights that time, and it was really well executed in detail. And I really appreciate those minor things that make these type of movies. But the cinematography, it's a 4:3 ratio, so it's boxed off, so it's not widescreen in 16:9 like you see most movies nowadays. It is boxed off like an old school movie, and that just enhanced my experience. Once again, it felt like it was just a product of its time, even though it was made in 2019. So it works in that front. It also provides as a claustrophobic type of experience, because everything that's happening to this woman is really tense and just makes you feel uneasy as you're watching it, but you feel like you can't breathe, you can't break free from all this atrocity that's happening in front of you. And so the screen kind of emulates that. It kind of closes off everything about the story and just kind of makes you kind of hone in and focus on all these close-ups and everything that's going on, and it just makes you feel like you have anxiety. And so that also kind of plays into the cinematography. And then not only that, it just provides for some beautiful framework. It's really symmetrical, and it feels like it's not showing everything because it is boxed off and it's not widescreen, but it's still gorgeous in its own right. Really highlighting the forest, the characters, positioning them correctly. It's a really very meticulous type of filmmaking, especially when you're filming in that aspect ratio. And so kudos to that. So I don't know much more I can say about this. Sorry for the long review. A lot to talk about. A really hard watch. I cannot stress that enough. If you do not like these types of movies, I'd say probably skip it. But if you're into filmmaking, if you're into films that make you feel angry, make you feel satisfied, make you feel heartbroken, you want to get up and pump for joy at the very end, or if you feel terrified, because there are a couple of horror sequences in this. If you want to watch, a great relationship between Billy and Clare, like it's got everything that you want in a movie. Jennifer Kent bouncing into every single direction, but ultimately coming back to the middle to make an experience that was unforgettable, and I will definitely remember it until the end of the year. So thank you, Jennifer Kent, and thank you, IFC, for this film. It is something special. So The Nightingale, I'm going to give it an A. It's good stuff. Just give me the warning. It's a strong R rating, but definitely worth it if you want to watch really great filmmaking. So an A for me for The Nightingale. Speaking just real quick, The Nightingale, did not know what it was, and when you find out what the job is at the beginning of the film, and you hear Claire kind of do that job, her singing's very, very, very good. That's all I'll say. Very angelic voice that plays into the end of the movie. But once again, I'm getting too far ahead of myself. Sorry. So anyways, let me know what you thought of The Nightingale down below, or if you've even heard of it, or what you thought about it. All that, and that will do it for this review, guys. I'm Chase Lee, and tune in next time for whatever I review next. I will see you guys later.